now that the Ed Orgeron era is essentially over, I wanted to kind of give my thoughts on it. It's something I've been asked a couple of times about. And again, I've been very candid that I'm not going to call for coaches to be fired while I'm catching a check from LSU for game day and I'm sitting in this chair during the week. I'm perfectly willing to critique play, give objective stats, and talk about things. I'm not going to call for coaches to be fired. We went through this rigmarole with Paul Maneri when they got off to a bad start last year in March. Wasn't going to do it then. Went through it this year with Ed Orgeron. Wasn't going to do it now. But now that things are finalized, I feel like I can give my thoughts on what this era was. And essentially the genesis of this thought process for me was listening to Matt Moscona and T-Bob Hebert on their various platforms. They've got Whiskey and Wine postgame. They've got the Scone and T podcast, part of the Guarantee Podcast Network, and they've gone back and forth, and they've done it on Twitter as well and on their shows, talking about what they think of it. And I disagree vehemently with both of them in this case. So I want to give my thoughts on it. Essentially, Matt's take, and this is something that he tweeted about and talked about with T-Bob on the Scone and T podcast, is that Ed Orgeron basically lucked into the 2019 title and then made decisions that caused the program to erode and unravel subsequently. And he equated it to winning the lottery and then making terrible decisions thereafter that cost you the fortune. And I totally disagree with that. I think that building a football program that produces a football team that produces a 15-0 national championship season takes a little bit more hard work, a little bit more commitment, a little more talent, decision-making, delegation than going up to the counter and getting the computer to generate numbers so you can win $350 million. I think there's certainly far more that goes into it. So that's why I vehemently disagree with the lottery analogy. T-Bob said that he thinks if you assign Ed Orgeron and all the positives that led up to the 2019 title to luck, then you have to assign all of the fall to luck as well. He says you can't have it both ways. Well, I disagree with that vehemently too. You can get lucky and create a result and then screw it up. Like that's in anything you do in life. Football program, business venture, whatever. You can get lucky, screw it up. So I don't think that you have to give him all the credit or none of the credit. I think you can kind of assign both. And that's kind of where I will go as I put together my analogy and what I think of the Ed Orgeron era and his time in Baton Rouge. Look, Ed Orgeron did a lot of really good things at LSU. When he took over as the interim coach back in 2016, he took over a team and a program that was stale. It had an antiquated offense. The fan base was split. It was just not a great spot for him. So he canned Cam Cameron and put Steve Ensminger in that chair, and that was a positive move. Steve set some records offensively. They kind of got things rolling, and if Darius Geis goes the right way against Florida, they're going to the Sugar Bowl with that team. Ed lightened the practice. He let the former players back in, made them feel a part of the thing, opened up the Tiger Walk. He put up more, he kind of let the air out of that pressure cooker that Les had created and allowed the guys to be a little bit more free, and they produced for him that year. Then in 2018, you have a great win at Auburn. You crushed Georgia at home. That was a really nice win. But he realized, because they lost Alabama that year, they had to, and this is the term that he used, go find someone to run the spread offense. So they went on a search for that, and they landed on Joe Brady, and that worked. The 2019 class was ranked 5th in the country in recruiting. 2020 was number 4. 2021 was number 3. That's 3 straight top 5 classes. He used the transfer portal very, very well. We know about Burrow, but Thad Moss and Tracy, all these guys, they used the transfer portal, which was new, and he found a way to incorporate that and to help his program. Sure, some of the guys didn't pan out in the transfer portal, didn't pan out in the signing classes, and that's a story for a different day. But everybody was recruiting these guys, and he put talented guys into that program for sure. That's all good. He also had some good fortune. Yes, inheriting Steve Ensminger is good fortune. He was on the staff. Yes, inheriting Dave Aranda, really good. He's a great defensive coordinator. Having Bill Bush on the staff who knew the Burrows, that's some good luck. That's good, but you capitalize it. So there's some really good decisions. There's some good fortune. He did some bad things in his time at LSU. No special teams coordinator in 2017. That's bad. It didn't work. Matt Canada, bad. Didn't work. Bo Pelini, disaster. Scott Linehan, bad. Didn't work. The locker room fractured last year. He deserves some blame for that. There's no doubt. 5-5 in 2020, not good enough. 3-3 to start 2021. That's 8-8. That's bad. He had some bad luck. COVID's a bad break. Injuries, bad break. So there's some really good and there's some good luck. There's some bad and there's some bad luck. And those analogies that Matt and T-Bob used, the lottery ticket and the good luck ballot, that doesn't work for me. Here are two that do. And I'll see what your thoughts are, and we welcome your interaction in the Bayou Ford chat on the YouTube channel. I think most of our listening audience, whether it's a huge part of their life or a very small part of their life, is familiar with or participates in golf and or poker. They're parts of the American way of life. A lot of people play poker, a lot of people play golf, at least you understand it. Okay, I'll start with the golf side. If you are an average amateur golfer, and you're carrying a 15, 18 handicap, you're very capable of going out there on the third hole and hitting a 260-yard drive right down the middle of the fairway, of getting up to your ball, judging the wind, identifying your target on the green, pulling the correct club, striking the correct shot, and hitting it to 12 feet from the hole. And then you'll go up there and you read the putt, and you make your stroke and you roll it in for a birdie. Doesn't happen all that often, but you're very capable of doing that. You have used your ability. You have gotten everything you can out of it, and you have achieved the desired result. You have made a birdie on this hole. That's what the greatest player on earth would be trying to do on that hole, be to make a birdie. And you've produced that. But you're an average player. The problem is after you make that birdie, you go to the next tee box, and none of those shots count on this hole. Nothing you've done there helps you. You got to go do it again. And you might do it again. You've done it on the third hole. You might do it again on the 14th hole. But when you're an average player and you go out there, you're not going to do it time and time again. There are going to be more double bogeys and triple bogeys that follow that derail your round. And there's a reason you've got to do it 18 times. That's how this is. If you're not the best and you're average, then it's going to catch up with you eventually because you can't replicate that elite performance time and time again. That's how it goes on the golf course, and that's kind of how I feel about Ed Orgeron. I think if Ed Orgeron was given a guaranteed 10 more years, he'd probably produce a couple really good seasons there. But if you look back at his career, he's probably going to throw some duds in there as well. That's kind of been what we've seen. So I think that angle and that metaphor plays far better. Poker. If you're an average poker player, got some ability, understand the game, understand how to manage your money, understand some of the statistics that go into decision making, and you sit at a table full of really good players. By the way, the SEC got a lot of really good players at the poker table. You may get dealt a really good hand, catch a good break there, and then you might play it perfectly right. You know when to check, you know when to raise, and you might win that hand because you understand what you're doing and you got some good cards and you played it correctly. There may be times where you don't play it correctly, but you just get the better cards and that river card pops up and boom, you win the hand, even against that really good player. But if you continue to play hand after hand, that pot will eventually deteriorate if you're an average player. And when you look at Ed Orgeron's career, that's kind of been what he is. So to me, it's not all luck that he built the 19 and all bad luck that it fell apart after. It's not that he won the lottery and then it eroded. It's that his career kind of tells you the head coach that he's been. He was in a really good situation, got some good breaks. He did some really good things. It just wasn't going to be something that was going to be sustainable over the long run. So I realize that's a long-winded start, but that's kind of how I feel about the Ed Orgeron era. I'll turn it over to you. Your thoughts on what I've given and kind of your thoughts on what we saw over the last 5 years.
Yeah, I think for Coach O, I think a guy that comes from this state and has done so many things for this state. And I think giving people 2019 and just that year to look back and really marvel on and really just remember where you were and how you felt through that ride and that passion, that purple and gold that you bled that whole season. No one's got to forget how they felt. Starting his LSU career off 40-9 as a head coach for the Tigers, and then you see that record go to 49-17, 9-8 after the national championship game. It's a brutal business. You got to update your resume, and that's just what we haven't seen from the Coach O era. after the national championship game, and you hear him time and time again say that coaching staff has to be better. It's on us. It's on us. That adds up. You can't take all that blame and wonder where the blame is going to be pointed. Just so much talent on these rosters. He has a big role and piece to do with that. And he, like I keep saying, he's done a sensational job recruiting this state. Just really putting competitive teams out there, but the last 2 seasons just not what you want to see. You look at the hires he's made for coordinators, for position coaches, it's just not the level of production you would see. And I think going out on a limb this year and really hiring 2 new coordinators who's never done it, it's a really gutsy move, I would say. If it works out, you look like a genius. But if it goes away, it started this season, you really put yourself behind the 8 ball, and that's what you kind of saw with this team. Just not really, winning those advantages and taking advantage of the opportunities they had. And you saw Chip Kelly kind of outcoach those guys. You kind of saw, even Dan Mullen have his way last week. And you see the Kentucky game. I think that was the biggest indictment against this team. You can't go to Lexington and just totally get embarrassed like that. But to answer kind of some of your points, I think the lottery thing is a little offensive for a guy who, like I said, he did hire Joe Brady. He did find a way to get Joe Burrow on this football team. He did recruit those teams that played in 2019. You can't just let that go to the wayside. Coach O had a big factor to do with that, and that, especially that season, all it takes is one slip up in the SEC championship, one slip up in the playoff, and that championship is gone. You got to be laser focused for 15 games, and that's exactly what they did. So you didn't have a head coach in there that didn't know what he was doing and didn't know how to rally and motivate guys to go out there and play at an elite level. You find a way to mess that up, and that's exactly what didn't happen. So I think Coach O will always be remembered. That 2019 was just a phenomenal year that people just will never get over and never really kind of realize what really happened, man. It was really magic that happened that year, and Coach O had a big part to do with that.
Absolutely. And I will forever be indebted to him for that ride because it was magic. And I don't know that there will ever be another one that feels quite like that when it's all said and done for my LSU fandom, which hopefully is a very, very long time. But man, was that special. And certainly he deserves a lot of credit for it. And I think as time moves on, everyone will generally feel that way. It's tough right now because we don't love 5-5 and we don't love 4-3.